So Donald Trump is unhinged. Governor Pritzker out of Illinois has called for the 25th Amendment. And every time that I watch Donald Trump speak, I just imagine J.D. Vance sitting alone in a room watching. And he's got to be saying, when am I going to step in and call this fight? It's got to be like a trainer that's sitting back just watching his boxer get pummeled. And he's sitting there going, does he have a chance? Can he get back in this? Can he pull this together? How could we win this one on points? What can we do? Can he make it to the end? But there has to come that point where you say, you know what? Enough is enough. And I don't know how long they're going to continue to ride Donald Trump, how long they're going to continue to try to push him. I could see him trying to get past the midterms. But this dude is not well. This dude is saying things completely unhinged and off the wall, and it's truly hard to even follow him anymore. He is so scatterbrained now. He always has been, but it's worse now. And if you go back and really compare, if you go back and look at clips of him from 2016 during the election, and you come up to now, that's not the same dude. For everybody that wanted to talk about Joe Biden's decline, let's take a look at Donald Trump just coming completely unglued here. And folks, this one is off the wall even for him. And I say that every time I roll a new clip because he just keeps raising the bar. But here he is talking to our troops, and he wants credit for knowing about bin Laden. Make this one make sense.
And please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And I said, you got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. But I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth, I said 1 year before, where's Pete? In the book, I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. But I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center, so we got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me. You know the old story? They don't give you credit, just take it yourself. And it was the U.S. Navy.
What in the hell was that? I mean, he got completely lost. If you'll notice, in the middle of that, he got completely lost. He almost said a year before it happened, I told Pete Hegseth, and then he somehow dialed it back and talked about a book and talked about how that he deserves credit, that he knew that bin Laden was a bad guy, and the fake news wouldn't give him credit. I mean, why would we have gave him credit back then? Because I can tell you, I was a teenager in the 90s who followed politics, and I knew about Osama bin Laden. I knew that he was a threat. We all did. We all knew who he was. We all knew what he was about. We never dreamed that he would be able to carry out something as horrific as 9/11, but we all knew he was a bad guy. We all knew we had to keep an eye on him, and so I don't know why that he suddenly thinks that he should get credit for that. But what is so sickening about when he calls our troops together and speaks in front of them is he turns these into political rallies, and he turns this into moments where he wants to brag about everything. And that's pretty much what he's doing in these next couple of clips I'm going to show you. We're not going to watch too many of them because I know they're nauseating to watch. But it's just really disgusting to me to watch a draft dodger talking about Vietnam. Take a look.
Deployed a brand new unit, the Navy SEALs, to tear up Mekong River Delta. Problem with Vietnam, we stopped fighting to win. We would have won easy. We would have won Afghanistan easy. Would have won every war easy. But we got politically correct. Let's take it easy. We're not politically correct anymore, just so you understand. We win. Now we win.
Well, the problem with Vietnam was he didn't go. The problem with the military was when it was his time to serve, he didn't. And it reminds me of something that Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, and the pro wrestler Jesse the Body Ventura said. He called these people chicken hawks, and it's the perfect name for them. He said these were people who, when it was their time to go, they were chicken, but they come back years later and they try to pretend to be hawks. And that is exactly what Trump does when he gets up there and flexes in front of our military, and then he always has to find a way. He will never let it go, folks. As long as Donald Trump is around, he will always be talking about the 2020 election and how it was rigged and how it was stolen from him and how he came back and how he won in a landslide. And if he's an old man one day in a nursing home, he's going to be saying that to whoever the nurse is on the shift that day. That's what she's going to hear. So just know that when Don Jr. and they finally put him in a home, whoever's going to be working the floor that he's on, just get ready to hear about the 2020 election and how it was rigged and how he won in a landslide and blah, blah, blah. We know, Grandpa, but here he goes.
I was president in 2016, and then they rigged the election on me. And then we caught him, didn't we? We caught him, but, you know, we had to run it again. I ran it again, and I got 250, and I got the World Cup, and I got the Olympics. Can you believe all of it?
He was president in 2016. I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, that was just a slip. He got elected in 2016, but still, I hate to do the whataboutisms on this, folks, but if Joe Biden was doing half the shit that Donald Trump has done in the last 9 months, Fox News would absolutely be coming off their hinges, going completely nuts over this stuff because it's not normal. He's not normal, and it needs to be called out as such. We cannot allow these people to continue to sandwich this guy. And I really do feel for my younger kids who are growing up in the era when Donald Trump was the president. Because I've talked about this on the channel before. My first memory of a president is Ronald Reagan. Didn't like him, wasn't a fan of him, wouldn't vote for him if he was around today. But at least Ronald Reagan did speak in a presidential way. And at least he didn't have this type of rhetoric. It hadn't really got here. I mean, he definitely started laying the groundwork for everything that ended up coming later, but we weren't there yet. And so my first memories of a president on television is Ronald Reagan. I remember the very first news story, not to get sidetracked here, but the very first news story that I ever remember watching as a kid was the Challenger explosion. That's the very first one that I remember standing in front of the TV as a little kid and watching. And I don't remember Ronald Reagan spreading conspiracy theories that the radical left lunatics somehow or another did this. That's what happens this day and age. So when you think back on everything that we've went through over the last 5 years, you think about all the kids that grew up during the pandemic that were isolated in their rooms, just falling down into these echo chambers of all this crazy, insane shit. It's not the same world that we grew up in. I hear a lot of people my age and older, and I want to talk about this. I hear a lot of people my age and older say things like, hey, these kids today, they got it easy. They got it easier than we ever had. I walked to school upside down and backwards barefooted and blah, blah, blah. No, these kids today, they came up in a completely different era than we did in a completely different world, and they have consumed more information in one day than we ever did in a lifetime back when we were a kid. I mean, the amount of information they take in, and then while we were trying to make it through the pandemic and they were online, they were falling down into these rabbit holes. And I think that's something that we need to talk about more, is how we bring people back to a sense of reality. It's not just the Trump supporters and the MAGA who got sucked into this stuff. You know, it's one of those things we really need to take a longer look at and understand. Don't write it off as, well, these kids today, they got it easier than we did because we had to, do things harder back in those days. That's not what this is. These kids have come up in a different era, and we have to understand them. We have to understand where it is that they come from and what they're thinking about and who they're listening to, who they're taking their notes from. Because, like I said, when I was a kid growing up, Reagan was on TV, but I didn't have these echo chambers I could fall down into online. Back in my day, I was playing Nintendo, or I was out riding a bike, and yeah, those were the days for me and my generation, but this is a completely different world. And so what I try to do with my younger sons, all my sons really that grew up during this, what I try to talk to them about is, okay, what was that like? I want to get to know what they were thinking. I want to know what they were listening to and what their friends were saying. I'm constantly picking my son's brain, and I've got a son that's 25. I've also got one that's 13, so it's a pretty good gap. And I can sit and listen to both of them and hear them out. We have to listen to them and understand them better, because we have got a demented old dude running this country, and he only started running this country again. The only reason he ran for re-election was to avoid accountability and to stay out of jail. That's it. He didn't care about us. He didn't care about them. We have a demented old man who J.D. Vance needs to step in and call the fight off and say, enough's enough. You're done here. Eddie Futch stopped Joe Frazier on the stool against Muhammad Ali in the Thrilla Manila in the 14th round. And he said to him, I'm stopping this, because you're beat half to death and you're spitting up blood. And Frazier was like, please let me at him. And Eddie Futch said to him, no one is ever going to forget what you did here today. Well, no one's ever going to forget what Donald Trump did, but it's high time that someone steps in and just stops this madness. Stop this unhinged dude. And let's listen to our children. Let's listen to the youth. Let's move this country forward. Let's get fresh sets of ideas. Let's work together. And let's make sure that we don't allow them to brainwash this insane president. I really do feel sorry for the kids that grew up thinking this is normal, for the kids that grew up in this era looking at that for leadership. Say what you want about Reagan. He was nowhere near as off the wall and unhinged as Trump is today. And so, yeah, when I think about my kids versus me and our upbringing, yeah, we might have had things harder in some areas back then, but we really need to take a look at our kids and what they've went through, and then imagine you're looking to that and you're going, oh, that's how politics works. We have to be here to always remind them that no, that's not how it works.